A family separated by war, now united.
Happy is a very small word compared to my feel. It is like it's biggest day in my life.
Tonight, a baby born in Gaza. A father meets his daughter for the very first time. Good evening. Amid so much heartache coming out of the Israel-Hamas war, our top story tonight is one of hope.
A family torn apart by the conflict is now back together this evening. CTV's Sean Leathong was at Pearson Airport as they were reunited today.
A cry of relief. A father touching his newborn daughter for the first time, his wife and child having escaped the bombing in Gaza.
I don't know what to say, but finally I got my dream.
24-year-old Ahmad Abuajedian's dream for his wife, 22-year-old Yara, and their 2-week-old daughter Sila to be safe.
It's undescribable feeling. I was dreaming to be with my husband and to be with him and help him as a blind person.
Originally from Gaza, Ahmad is a permanent resident in Canada. In October, Yara was pregnant and living in Gaza while Ahmad prepared their home in Brantford, Ontario.
And the war started, as you guys all know, and there was lots of contact. He even lost family members. They even misplaced. His sister was missing for a couple of weeks with no contact, a blackout over there.
Yara was in the Jabalia refugee camp in northern Gaza. There were times when Ahmad did not hear from Yara for days. She says bombings were constant. People were dying.
We can hear the bombardment in the ground and in the air and in the sea. And we are just running from place to place to get safe.
Sila was born farther south at Al-Ada Hospital on October 23rd. The hospital had no water and no electricity.
I was worried about myself and I worried about my daughter and my birth.
In Canada, Ahmad was working with Brantford Brant MP Larry Brock to bring his wife to Canada, not knowing if she would make it out alive.
I had to be a realist. We're hearing tragic stories, literally hour by hour, day by day.
Yara and Sila got through the crossing at Rafah into Egypt. Ahmad was told to buy a plane ticket out of Cairo yesterday morning, coming to Pearson early this morning.
It's the biggest day in my life. I can't even wait.
Now they head home, a family, together, safe. Yara said there were 4 more passengers on the plane from Gaza, and their priority was to find those people and help them through their journey in Canada. Sean Leathong, CTV News.
Also tonight, a painful reminder of the hostages still being held by Hamas, so many of them children. The agonizing wait for word on loved ones and mission to keep their lives top of mind. As the Israel-Hamas war rages on, strong words today here at home.
Toronto's mayor calling for an end to the fighting in the Middle East and speaking out about acts of hate in her city. CTV's Beth McDonnell joins us live with the details. Beth.
Nathan, crews have been working for hours here outside of Indigo on Bay Street to clean up an act of vandalism that's being called unacceptable. Today, Mayor Olivia Chow described Toronto as a beacon of hope, a place known for its diversity. She's calling on people to be compassionate.
Nice to meet you.
At Indigo on Bay at Bloor West, splashed red paint and posters of its Jewish founder and CEO with the words "funding genocide" are being investigated by Toronto's hate crime unit. The Friends of Simon Wiesenthal Center for Holocaust Studies says the vandalism is an appalling anti-Semitic attack.
It's just been a really scary time for the Jewish community. We feel that there are other ways to stand up for Palestinian human rights, and just targeting Jewish institutions, hateful speech. These are unacceptable.
A few kilometers west on Bloor near Ossington, police are investigating a break-in discovered Thursday morning at this Palestinian Lebanese pizza restaurant. Its Palestinian owner says $2,500 in cash and tech equipment was stolen. While police are not currently investigating it as a hate crime, the robbery has left the owners unsettled.
It's extremely hard being a Palestinian person in the world we're living in right now. It's extremely hard being a Jewish person in the world we're living in right now. Intolerance is at levels I've never seen before.
I felt that I'm compelled to say something.
Today, Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow spoke out, calling for a ceasefire in the war and for the hostages in Gaza to be released, saying that watching the number of children dying in the conflict has been unbearable. Chow says she is also learning too often about hateful acts in the city.
Everyone deserves to be safe in this city. And targeting people because of their where they're born or what is their religion, what is their faith, is just not acceptable.
Police say since the start of the war to October 25th, there were 15 reported hate crimes in the city that have been anti-Semitic, 5 Islamophobic. The number of times both groups have been targeted is up significantly from recent years. As a Torontonian, how are you feeling?
Disappointed. It's just, I don't know what people are thinking.
Right now it's very scary. I mean, you walk out, you just don't know what's going to happen next.
Chow is calling on Torontonians to show compassion and be the best of themselves. Police say an increased presence continues in communities across the city, including at places of worship and schools. Reporting live outside Indigo on Bay Street, I'm Beth McDonnell. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Beth. And Prime Minister Justin Trudeau once again denounced the wave of hate crimes the country has seen since the war broke out in the Middle East, saying Canadians need to come together as a community.
Not because we're all going to agree in every way on the next steps going forward, but because we can all agree that we need to be there for each other and that we don't wish ill on any of our neighbors in this country.
The Prime Minister called on Canadians to stand up for each other, hear each other's grief, and support each other.
Still to come tonight, honoring those who stood on guard for our country. Flags adorn the lawn at Sunnybrook Veterans Center as an expression of our appreciation. That story coming up.
But first, let's take a live look outside on this Friday evening. We had a good amount of sunshine today before the clouds rolled in, and we spent the day in double digits. How about that? Lindsay Morrison is here with a look at the current conditions. Is it cooling down tonight?
It is cooling down a little bit for tonight, Michelle, and also for the weekend, but pleasant conditions are expected overall. Here's a look at where we are right now. 8 degrees in Toronto, Pickering, Mississauga, and Oshawa. Still 10 in Burlington, holding on to those double digits. And you may have noticed it's a little bit cooler the further north you travel. Right now, winds continue to come from a northwesterly direction. That's a bit of a change from earlier. The winds are also starting to ease. They're not nearly as gusty as they were earlier in the day, but we are still getting a few bands of lake effect showers and, yes, some lake effect snow in eastern parts of the province too. Here's your evening at a glance. We're going to take you through the weekend, talk about what's in store weather-wise when it comes to Remembrance Day ceremonies. That's ahead. For now, though, Michelle, over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Toronto police have released disturbing details of a hate-motivated crime.
This one targeting a member of the LGBTQ2S+ community. 3 teenagers are charged in the attack. CTV's Natalie Johnson joins us from Yonge and Wellesley with the details. Natalie.
Well, Nathan, Toronto police have called in their specialized hate crime unit to investigate this incident after a woman was violently attacked, allegedly by a group of teenagers. It happened Wednesday afternoon around 1 o'clock in this area, Yonge and Wellesley. The woman was walking through the neighborhood when she encountered a group of young women who were involved in a conflict or altercation with another group. The victim intervened to check on these young women and try to help them out. That is when the other group turned on her. That progressed into a verbal dispute, and then she was attacked, allegedly by this group of young people, sustaining serious injuries that sent her to hospital. Police say it was the nature of what was said during the attack that led them to investigate this incident as a hate crime.
That she is a trans woman, and that she feels, and we feel that this is a part of why she was attacked, in the way that she was attacked. And it really speaks to a whole community when we talk about hate crimes, and it's more than an individual.
Police have arrested two 14-year-olds and one 15-year-old. They have been charged with assault causing bodily harm and are due to appear in court in January. Reporting live, I'm Natalie Johnson. Michelle, over to you.
Thank you, Natalie. We're getting more details about an early morning stabbing inside a condo in Etobicoke.
A woman in her 50s died at the scene. A man has been arrested. Police are calling it an isolated incident, but it's left many residents shaken. It was a shocking realization for many residents at this Etobicoke condo. A woman in their building had been killed.
Well, it is very scary and very alarming.
It's happening everywhere, right? It's getting a little scary to live in the city.
Toronto police say the woman in her 50s was stabbed to death sometime around 6 this morning. It happened inside 15 Zora Street near Islington and the Queensway.
An individual entered the lobby from within the building and reported that they were involved in an altercation. From that, officers located a scene in which a female was inside being treated by Toronto Paramedic Services and Fire Department for injuries that she sustained. Despite the valiant effort they provided at the time, she succumbed to her injuries inside of that condominium unit.
Police say a man in his 50s is in custody. He was first transported to hospital for minor injuries and then a police station for further questioning.
So we want to assure the public that this is an isolated incident. While the two people do appear to know each other, the extent of that relationship is unknown at this time.
Police say a man in his 50s is in custody. He was first transported to hospital for minor injuries and then a police station for further questioning. Now, police add there's no threat to the public, but they're still asking anyone with any information to come forward.
Police are also investigating after a young person was stabbed in North York yesterday evening. It happened at Sentinel and Hucknall Roads near Jane and Finch just after 5 p.m. Police say the young victim was sent to hospital with serious but non-life-threatening injuries. Two male suspects were seen fleeing the scene.
There's a development tonight regarding the jury deciding the fate of Peter Nygard, accused of 5 counts of sexual assault.
Deliberations began on Wednesday, and just moments ago, the jury returned to the court with a question for the judge. CTV's John Musselman is live at the University Avenue Courthouse with the details. What can you tell us about this question, John?
Well, Michelle, in fact, it was 2 questions. The jury is looking for guidance on 2 issues. One, they're asking the judge, what is the legal definition that would constitute the normal amount of time that would constitute unlawful confinement. They also want to know, and this is interesting, if they can't reach a unanimous count on one, what do they do about the other counts? So the judge and the lawyers involved, that question was read out before both the Crown and the defense. They have taken a short recess. The judge will come back and then they will talk about how will they answer these questions and send that back to the jury, and then deliberations will continue. It's difficult to say whether this means anything, whether they're close or not. All we can really report is that these are 2 questions, and it's the first time we've heard from this jury since Wednesday. I'll send it back to you.
All right. Thank you, John. Meanwhile, the jury has yet to start its deliberations in the trial of a London man charged in a deadly vehicle attack against a Muslim family in 2021. Nathaniel Veltman has pleaded not guilty to 4 counts of terrorism-motivated first-degree murder in the killings of members of the Afzal family and 1 count of terrorism-motivated attempted murder. The presentation of evidence wrapped up in court Monday. The jury's been told they won't be needed until next Tuesday as final details are figured out.
Returning to the war in the Middle East, 266 Canadians were on the list for approved departures from Gaza today, but the Rafah crossing into Egypt remains shut.
This comes as fighting intensifies in Gaza City and the death toll continues to climb. CTV's Heather Wright has the latest.
This is the moment Gaza's largest hospital was hit by an airstrike. Health Ministry officials said missiles landed in the courtyard early this morning, reportedly setting fire to the pediatric cancer ward. The blast killed at least 1 person and injured several others. We were on the 5th floor, this woman says. Then we found bombs falling on us. Israel has not commented on whether it was responsible for the airstrike, which comes as its troops battle Hamas inside Gaza City. The death toll in Gaza has now climbed past 11,000, according to the Hamas-run health ministry.
Far too many Palestinians have been killed. Far too many have suffered these past weeks. And we want to do everything possible to prevent harm to them and to maximize the assistance that gets to them.
Blinken's remarks suggest the U.S. is stepping up its pressure on Israel to do more to limit civilian casualties, while also reiterating its support of Israel's right to defend itself after the horrific attacks carried out by Hamas on October 7th. Israel has begun daily humanitarian pauses, allowing civilians to flee from the north to the south using 2 corridors. There's nothing left to say, no words. We saw death with our own eyes. After opening for foreigners yesterday, the Rafah crossing was shut all day today. 266 Canadians are on the latest list of those approved to leave Gaza, though it's not clear when the next opportunity might come. The UN is stepping up its pressure on Israel to open another entry into the territory, saying Rafah was built for people to cross on foot, not for transport trucks, adding it's impossible to get enough aid into Gaza using one crossing.
If there is a hell on earth today, its name is Northern Gaza.
Israel has said it does not target schools or hospitals, but believes Hamas is using the basement of Al-Shifa Hospital as its headquarters, adding it could lose its protected status and become a legitimate target, something Hamas has denied. Heather Wright, CTV News, Toronto.
Top UN officials say Israel's ongoing bombardment of Gaza could amount to a break of international humanitarian law.
The indiscriminate effects of such weapons in a densely populated area is clear. Israel must immediately end the use of such methods and means of warfare, and the attacks must be investigated.
Volker Turk also said any use of civilians by Palestinian groups to shield themselves from attack violates the laws of war.
For the families of the hostages still being held by Hamas, waiting for word of their loved ones is agonizing. Today, they shared their stories at a special event in Toronto. CTV's Alison Hurst was there, and we want to warn you, the details are disturbing.
Chairs sit empty, each a setting for one of the more than 240 hostages being held by Hamas. Maayan Shavit's cousins are 2 of them.
The unknown is what kills us.
Shavit says Carmel Gat was taken first, alone, put in a car, and hasn't been seen since. Next, her aunt Kinneret Gat was taken and later killed.
Then they took my cousin Alon, his wife Yarden, and their 3.5-year-old daughter Geffen, put them in a van full with terrorists with guns and drove into Gaza.
But just before they crossed the border, Shavit says the vehicle was stopped for a potential threat. When the doors opened, her cousin, his wife Yarden Roman Gat, and daughter jumped from the car and ran.
She gave Geffen, her daughter, to her husband and said, you stronger, you can run faster with her. You can save her. I won't. She's the hero in the story.
Roman Gat was caught, but she did save her daughter. The little girl and her dad hid in the bushes for hours until they could get to safety.
I can't even start to imagine what's going on in his mind right now and how he's dealing with it.
Bar Cohen lit a candle for them.
And I'm thinking about them every day, like several times a day.
There are also table settings for the children who have been taken hostage.
There's more than 30 children, including a 10-month-old who spent their 10th month captive by Hamas in Gaza. And as a parent, this is just a heartbreaking thing.
This empty Shabbat table was set by the UJA downtown to bring the hostages back to the front of people's minds.
It's just that reminder that 5 weeks ago tomorrow, 240 people were taken.
There's been a lot of hate in our streets and all over social media. And what we're forgetting really is that there's 240 people, babies included, in the hands of Hamas in Gaza.
Council of Muslims Against Anti-Semitism members also showed solidarity.
We are here to share the pain of our Jewish brothers and sisters. We are here to say that Hamas is a terrorist organization.
Shavit says these hostages and her family can't wait.
Bring them home.
Because it's already been too long. Alison Hurst, CTV News.
In Edmonton, a man and his 11-year-old son are dead after a daytime shooting at a busy shopping complex on Thursday. Police say the incident was targeted.
The loss of a child at the hands of gun violence is an unthinkable tragedy, and one we should never have to report on in our city or anywhere.
The father has been identified as 41-year-old Harpreet Uppal, and police say he was a high-level gang member involved in the drug trade. A burning vehicle was found near the scene, and police believe it was used by the suspects.
In Ottawa, the federal public inquiry into foreign interference is gearing up to get underway soon. Back in September, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau named Quebec Justice Marie-Josie Hogue to lead the effort, which will probe efforts by other countries to meddle in Canada's democracy. The inquiry's official website launched today. It includes a notice asking anyone interested in testifying to apply for standing by November 22nd.
One of Canada's most bizarre mysteries is getting new attention from police. A would-be robber held up a bank in Kenora back in 1973. He'd almost made his getaway when a police officer shot him, setting off a homemade bomb in front of hundreds of spectators. Here's CTV's Adrian Gabriel with the new evidence that police have discovered.
It was a cool May afternoon when a masked man walked into a bank in downtown Kenora, just 50 kilometers east of the Manitoba border. He was carrying 2 guns and something that looked like a wired-up clothespin in his mouth. He said it would set off a bomb if anything happened to him.
Dead man switch, the name comes from if you release it, you're a dead man.
Joe Ralco was a witness to the robbery and wrote a book about what happened.
The bank robber walks out the doors. What happens the moment the doors open?
1,000 people standing around, and you could have heard a pin drop.
Okay, now they're coming back out again.
And then it's absolute chaos.
The bomb has gone off.
A police officer shot the robber, triggering the bomb. Body parts and singed money filled the air. Police circulated this sketch and quickly found a name and address. But here's the twist.
It was a fake name. It was a fake address.
The bomber's identity was unknown, and 50 years later, it's still a mystery. So W5 investigated whether there is DNA evidence that could be tested. And then a last-minute twist. Police confirmed that they are once again actively investigating the case and have found DNA evidence.
Would you like to know who the Kenora bomber was?
Who wouldn't like to know who the Kenora bomber was? I mean, we would all like to know.
I would. I'd like a little bit of closure. Right now, it's some ghost came into town and blew himself up.
But finding the bomber's identity may have to wait. The OPP say searching for a DNA match is under review, but their priorities lie with cases that could bring comfort to families of victims. The problem in this case, the bomber has no known family because nobody knows who he is. Adrian Gabriel, CTV News, Kenora, Ontario.
And you can watch the full report, The Mystery Bomber, at W5's brand new time, 10 o'clock tonight, right here on CTV. Back here at home on the eve of Remembrance Day, a touching scene at a Toronto Veterans Centre.
A sea of Canadian flags placed by an army of volunteers in a show of patriotism and one of thanks. CTV's Mike Walker reports.
A patriotic sea of red and white honoring veterans for their service.
Oh, look at those flags already.
Watching from the window.
Oh, look at it. Oof, oof, oof.
A sight bringing mixed emotions for 101-year-old Stan Dinney. He served with the Royal Canadian Air Force in the Second World War.
Something tanks at your heart. I like those flags to remember people.
This is the 13th year for Operation Raise a Flag, a small army of volunteers planting 30,000 flags ahead of Remembrance Day to pay tribute to veterans who live at Sunnybrook's Veterans Center.
Sunnybrook has such a great legacy of helping veterans, and it's the least I can do, just a little token of appreciation.
220 veterans who served in the Second World War, Korea, and Cold War live at the center.
It is wonderful for them each year to see that Canadians have not forgotten. I can tell you that tomorrow morning there will be many teary eyes looking out of those windows at all of the flags, realizing that we still haven't forgotten.
Issued by the Republic of South Korea.
Mort Lightstone served with the Royal Canadian Air Force for 28 years, which included tours in Korea and Vietnam.
Altogether, I flew over 6,500 hours on operations and missions.
For him, the flags are symbolic of friends who didn't return home.
A feeling of sorrow that so many of my friends don't have the opportunity to see it.
An overwhelming display of gratitude.
And we have to thank them and recognize that they've committed to service and something that, that we have to value our freedom.
During a somber time of reflection.
I wish it didn't happen. We did our part, or the best we could.
Each flag represents a donation from the community, with all proceeds supporting programs at the Veterans Center, which this year marks its 75th anniversary. Mike Walker, CTV News.
And there will be several public services for Remembrance Day tomorrow morning, including the province's official ceremony at Queen's Park. It gets underway in front of the legislature at 10:45 with a live stream online.
The city's main ceremony will be getting underway at Old City Hall, but city services will also be held at 6 other locations across Toronto and several other communities across the GTA. You can find full details on our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca.
And CTV National Chief News Anchor and Senior Editor Omar Sachedina will have live coverage of Remembrance Day services from the National War Memorial in Ottawa. That begins at 10 tomorrow morning.
Coming up on CTV News, who's in the running for music's biggest prize? The 2024 crop of Grammy nominees revealed, including plenty of nods for Toronto's own.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, if you have a smartphone, you know how expensive they are, so it's wise to invest in a case. But is one really better than the other? And what about charging cables? Is a $30 cable really better than a $5 one? I'll have the latest test results just ahead.
Well, if you're going to be venturing out to a cenotaph tomorrow morning, you might want to bundle up. Temperature will be around 4 degrees at 11 a.m. for Remembrance Day ceremonies. We should be able to enjoy a mix of sun and cloud. Meanwhile, Sunday is Diwali, and conditions are looking good at night for those fireworks displays. Overall, we have a pretty quiet-looking 7-day forecast, with one exception. I'll show you which day there's potential for active weather coming up. And stay with us. We've got another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
Smartphones can cost more than $1,000, so investing in a sturdy case is a good buy in case your phone takes a tumble.
And if you have a smartphone, you'll need charging cables, but are expensive cables that much better than cheap ones? Pat Foran joins us with Consumer Alert. Pat.
Nathan and Michelle, Consumer Reports just put smartphone cases and charging cables to the test. If you need a case, researchers have what you should look for. And if you need a cable, some $5 ones work just as well as those that sell for $30. Consumer Reports recently tested Apple's iPhone 15 Pro Max and 3 other iPhone 15 models to see if online claims it broke easily were true. But even after dropping them 100 times in this tumbler, putting them to a rain test, and dunking them in water, they found them quite durable. Still, if you have any smartphone, you may want to invest in a case.
Well, with phones costing more than $1,000, it may make sense to get a case or a screen protector to protect your investment.
Testers found you don't have to pay a lot to get a great case. Look for one with raised edges around the screen to protect the glass from a face-down flop, raised edges around the rear camera housing to protect the lenses, and padded corners with an air gap to protect the phone from impact. Also, consider a case with texture or grip so your phone is less likely to slip from your hands. Remember that military grade may just be a marketing ploy for some cases. And look for a case with a warranty. OtterBox, LifeProof, and Spec all offer them. Consumer Reports also tested charging cords to see if you need to pay a premium to get one that will last. They bought low-price cords from Amazon and Walmart to see how they stack up against cords sold by Apple and Samsung. The price range was about $5 to $30.
We found the best of the bunch could last more than 6 years, while the worst may not even make it 6 months.
Testers calculated how many bends and twists each cable would have to endure to last for a year and a half, bending each cord into 90-degree angles and twisting them 2,500 times. Some cheaper cords lasted fewer than 800 bends. Those that did the best were Apple's Lightning cord for iPhones 5 through 14 and the Amazon Basics USB-C cord for the iPhone 15, Android phones, laptops, and tablets. Both survived 11,500 bends, which means they could last you more than 6 years.
The bottom line here, you can't always rely on brand or price or something like thickness when choosing a charging cord.
And when it comes to screen protectors, in the past it was recommended you always use one, but new phones have screens that are much stronger. Still, if you're worried your phone could get damaged, using one could prevent scratches and cracks. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
Heads up, a construction project will impact drivers and pedestrians in the downtown core this weekend. A new pedestrian bridge is being installed, which will extend from Union Station to a new office building on Bay Street. Starting this evening, TTC buses that run along Lower Bay will be diverted. There will be traffic and sidewalk closures until Monday evening on Bay between Front and Lakeshore. There will also be temporary pedestrian pathways on the Bay side of Union Station.
And if your weekend plans include relying on the TTC in the West End, keep this in mind. There won't be any service on Line 2 between Kipling and Islington stations tomorrow or Sunday. And so the transit agency can do some track work. Shuttle buses will be running and staff will be on hand to point you in the right direction.
Well, you know what? I think at this stage in November, at this time of the year, anything that is dry and not too cold is a win. And I feel like that's what the weekend looks like.
Yeah, I think we've been spared for pretty much the last month, which is pretty good. We had a little bit a few days ago, but otherwise we've been doing pretty well.
That's true. Yeah, so we're going to be mild and we're going to throw some sunshine into the mix as well. So it's not a bad looking weekend forecast. Get outside and enjoy if you can. As we make our way through the next couple of days as well, we are eyeing the potential for a few showers early next week, but it's really just a one-off. This is a quiet looking 7-day forecast, and we're going to get a little warmer over time as well. Weather is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train. Still mild this hour in Windsor, Ontario. Look at that dividing line between Northern Ontario and the south. -2 degrees in Sudbury, -3 in Timmins, and -2 for you if you're joining us from Moosonee. As for what we can expect tomorrow, well, temperatures are going to be just on the cool side of seasonal. I just want to remind you that our seasonal average is now about 8 degrees. So that's where we expect to be at this time of year based on averages. Overnight tonight will be dropping to a low of about 1 in Toronto on the plus side. However, communities like Waterloo, Orillia, Peterborough and Bancroft expected to slip below freezing. In fact, it could be pretty chilly in a couple of those areas. Tomorrow in Toronto, daytime high 6 degrees. So eventually we are going to climb close to normal, just shy of 8 in fact. And then here's a look at the satellite and radar. So we have had some showers moving their way off of Georgian Bay as well as Lake Huron, thanks in part to those gusty west winds that we've been dealing with for about 2 days now. A little bit of light snow in some areas too today, perhaps around Gravenhurst over toward the Kinmount area and in through the nation's capital. We managed to remain dry in most parts of the GTA today and expect to through the weekend as well. Winds are slowly changing direction. They're going to be coming out of the north instead. We could get a little bit of lake enhancement and maybe some lake effect cloud at times tomorrow. There's about 8 a.m. for your Saturday. It looks pretty sunny. Increase in cloud possible as we make our way through the afternoon and evening. And then Sunday, a pretty bright day as well. I just want to give you a heads up as to what could be coming as we make our way into the day on Monday. So potential for a few showers that day. And that's about it when it comes to active weather. Beyond that, sunshine for Tuesday. Look at these daytime highs into next week. Double digits just about every day. And by the time we reach next Friday, we could be talking temperatures in the teens. That's your look at the forecast for now. Nathan, over to you.
All right. Thanks, Lindsay. Also tonight, a groundbreaking eye transplant that is astounding the medical world. A vision into the remarkable future of sight regeneration. That's coming up.
An Arkansas man is recovering after undergoing a medical first, a complete eye transplant.
But what does the road ahead have in sight? Our health reporter Pauline Chan has more.
At this point, the mere fact that the eye's alive and looks healthy is pretty special.
Aaron James underwent the 21-hour surgery in May, but his progress is astounding the medical world.
Impressive, completely impressive that we've achieved this capability.
It was an electrical accident in 2021 that took James' left arm, half his face, including his left eye, and almost his life. Then, on May 27th of this year, doctors at a New York hospital were able to do a rare facial transplant on James with the extra step of transplanting the complete left eye and optic nerve. Stem cells from the donor were also implanted to help with the recovery and hopefully the regrowth of the optic nerve.
The eye is not seeing, but they are recording some activity in the brain, which is a very hopeful sign.
Dr. David Wong of Unity Health says even if vision is not restored to the eye, just the fact that it is healthy and able to improve the patient's appearance and self-confidence is a big achievement.
In this case, it's unlikely that there will be complete regeneration, but who knows in the future? Science is remarkable.
You also got to think that there's a family that lost somebody. You know, there's not a day goes by that I don't think of them.
Aaron James still faces the risk of organ rejection and chronic infection, but Wong says his case has given researchers new data to work with. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
With respiratory virus season in full swing, the World Health Organization has updated its guidelines for treating COVID-19 patients. The agency lowered the threshold for when certain drugs should be considered for patients with non-severe COVID infections. The decision will be based on the patient's risk of possibly needing hospitalization and the effectiveness of the treatment. This marks the 14th time the WHO has updated these guidelines as clinical understanding of the virus evolves.
Meanwhile, U.S. officials have approved the world's first vaccine for a mosquito-borne virus known as chikungunya. The Food and Drug Administration considers the disease an emerging global health threat. It causes fever and joint pains and can be fatal to newborns. This year, about 440,000 chikungunya cases have been reported as of September, including 350 deaths. Right now, there's no specific drug to treat the virus.
A British judge has ruled a lawsuit by Prince Harry, Elton John and others accusing a tabloid of unlawful information gathering should go to full trial. They accuse the publisher of the Daily Mail of paying private investigators to illegally bug homes and cars to record phone conversations. Prince Harry accuses the publisher of targeting him by hacking voicemails, tapping landlines and obtaining flight information of his ex-girlfriend. The publisher has denied the allegations.
The 2024 Grammy nominees have been revealed, and Taylor Swift has made history.
I have this thing where I get older, but just never wiser.
The pop superstar was among those up for Song of the Year with Anti-Hero. Swift has been nominated 7 times in that category over her career. She's up against 7 others, including Billie Eilish and SZA, who leads all nominees with 9. Toronto's own Drake wrapped up 4 nominations, and the Barbie movie soundtrack had a strong showing with 11 nods.
In her first concert since a bus rollover injured 13 of her tour crew members in Saskatchewan, Shania Twain thanked the town of Indian Head for their hospitality after the accident.
I'm just so humbled by all of that kindness and generosity.
Twain took to the stage in Saskatoon last night, dedicating the show to her entire crew. 2 crew members are still recovering in hospital, but their injuries are non-life-threatening.
He's been the focus of no shortage of drama in recent years amid his transformation of Twitter into X. Now, a biopic of Elon Musk is in the works. A biography of Musk, approved by the Tesla CEO, was released a few months ago, and Variety reports it will serve as the basis for the screenplay. The movie is reportedly in production at A24, with Darren Aronofsky on board to direct.
As Hollywood revs back to life, some big names are welcoming the end of the months-long actors' strike. He's a bit far away there, but that is actor Kevin Bacon recreating his moves from Footloose to celebrate the end of the strike. The tentative deal between SAG-AFTRA and the studios will see film and TV production restart on both sides of the border, with some shows returning to set within days.
Stars Tonight is brought to you by Lastman's Bad Boy. Who's better? Nobody.
After the break, the world's population reaches a new milestone. The billions more lives sharing the planet since the turn of the millennium, and what is contributing to the growth.
I don't know what to say, but finally I got my dream.
It's okay.
Updating our top stories, it was a heartfelt reunion. A new mother fleeing war-torn Gaza arrived in Toronto today and introduced her husband to their 3-week-old daughter for the first time. 24-year-old Ahmad Abuajedian was preparing his home in Brantford for his new family, but his wife had been stuck in the war zone since early October.
Disappointed. It's just, I don't know what people are thinking.
Meantime, Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow is calling for a ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas war. She's also urging people across the city to reject violence and hate. This comes just after Toronto police shared there's been an increase of anti-Semitism and Islamophobia since the start of the war.
I like those flags to remember people.
Canadian flags were planted throughout the front lawn of Sunnybrook today ahead of Remembrance Day. Tomorrow, the annual event pays tribute to veterans who receive care there. Each flag represents a donation from the community, with all the proceeds supporting programs at the Veterans Center.
In business news, high interest rates and inflation are causing some Canadians to put off big purchases, including mattresses. B&M Bloomberg's Jacqueline Hansen explains.
Sleep Country Canada says it continues to see a slowdown in consumer spending, particularly on its mattresses. Sleep Country reported revenue and profit that missed analysts' expectations. The company says inflation and higher mortgage costs are impacting consumers' purchasing power. And just as Canadian Tire highlighted in its results yesterday, Sleep Country says its sales are softest in regions where housing costs are highest, including the Greater Toronto Area, Montreal, and British Columbia. That is the latest in business. I'm Jacqueline Hansen of B&M Bloomberg.
On the markets, the Canadian dollar rose 6 points to settle at 72.47 U.S. American benchmark oil gained $1.40 to 77.15 a barrel. And the TSX Composite Index climbed 67 points to end the day at 19,654.47.
A new study is putting some hard figures on the global shift from in-person to hybrid or remote work. Real estate brokerage CBRE says in the U.S., workers are likely spending 20 to 25% less time working in the office than they did pre-pandemic. Office vacancy rates jumped to 18.4% last quarter, as Bloomberg reports office values declined more than 20% since last October.
The world's population has reached another milestone. The U.S. Census Bureau estimates there are now 8 billion people on this planet. Population growth remains brisk, growing from 6 billion to 8 billion since the turn of the millennium. But the rate has slowed since doubling between 1960 and 2000. Longer life expectancies have helped contribute to the higher population. In sports, the Maple Leafs will look to get back into the win column when they take on the Calgary Flames tonight.
He's got a break. They've tried a penalty. In front. Scores!
The Leafs got off to a good start in their last game against Ottawa, but gave up 3 goals in the third period in a 6-3 loss. Meanwhile, the Flames are struggling to the start of the season with just 4 wins in 12 games. Puck drop at Scotiabank Arena is just after 7 tonight.
And the Argos take on the Alouettes this weekend in the Eastern Final. Toronto finished the regular season with that franchise record 16 wins. The Argos are heavily favored and are looking for their second straight Grey Cup. Kickoff tomorrow at BMO Field is at 3 p.m.
Just ahead, all things rural right in the heart of the city. We'll take you to the Royal Agricultural Winter Fair, where they're gearing up for the final weekend full of big events.
Tonight, a conversation with General Romeo Dallaire.
We're not doing much more than they did for me in Rwanda.
Canada's most well-known peacekeeper reflects on Canada's role in times of war. Later on CTV National News from Ottawa.
And a reminder, the CTV News at 6 podcast is available as a download every weeknight. And a special shout out to those of you listening to the newscast live on News Talk 1010.
Feeling like a little taste of the country?
You don't have to leave the city. We're heading into the final weekend of the Royal Agricultural Winter Fair.
We have lots of friends who are dairy farmers and chicken farmers, and we think it's great to expose our kids more and more to this. We'd love to teach them things, to show them, and it's not too far of a drive for us.
The largest indoor agricultural and equestrian event continues at the exhibition ground since 1922. The Royal has been a gathering for farmers and producers. It's a celebration of livestock and horsemanship and an opportunity for people of all ages to immerse themselves in all things rural. Young Joelle has some fair favorites of her own.
The dog show, and I also liked seeing all the animals.
Among the highlights this weekend, the horse show's on tonight. Tomorrow, attendees can take in the World Cup, and the Royal Rodeo runs Sunday. One of many things to do this weekend.
So much. Remembrance Day. Okay, give us the goods weather-wise for our plans.
Yes, okay, so tonight we're in the clear, both as far as cloud cover is concerned and also likely active weather. Temperature-wise, we are going to fall once again to about 1 for the low. That's pretty close to normal, though, for this time of year. Here's tomorrow. Overall, it's a decent-looking day. Daytime high 6 degrees for your Saturday. Might see more cloud than sun at times. Sunday is Diwali. There's one more look at the conditions you can expect. And then next week, generally quiet. Chance of showers on Monday and a warming trend as the week goes on. Michelle and Nathan.
Sounds good to us. Thanks, Lindsay. And that's it for us. But be sure to join Omar Sachedina tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zoraida Allman with our next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and online at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and all of us here at CTV News, thank you for watching and have a great night.